All right. I want to address something because of course, this is to be expected. This whole issue, especially with my channel, and the stuff I talk about, because yeah, I do go there. It's in the sense that I know most of what I talk about is not, well, this perspective is not widespread on YouTube. It's very rare, and I actually didn't have the intention of even getting on YouTube when I first put a video up about a year ago. uh, Especially like with this type of message, because I know it's too much for people. It's too deep. Even the initial things I talk about, not I'm too deep, but I know that the stuff that I'm studying is very deep, and people are not too familiar with it. That perspective of existence, and I don't belong to a group necessarily. I'm a straight shooter, and I don't play the delusion game, and I don't really join groups or anything, and I just study. I'm a studier, and I have a serious mind. I would like to think, and a pretty hardcore mind. So I know some of the things I go into. Like I said, they're usually touchy, and like people are going to get offended. Um, because a lot of stuff I would say would shatter a lot of delusion. I mean, I shatter my own delusions. That's what deprogramming is. If you want to act like you're learning something, because basically on YouTube it's just a bunch of new age, quasi new age people who claim they're not in the new age, but they really are. People who think they get it, but they really don't. And so like recent video, I was talking about like NDEs and OBEs, and basically putting those into perspective. And people don't like that. Like like shatter your delusion. Would technically, yes, I am a naturalist. Technically, technically, I am an atheist, but I'm not a. I wouldn't consider myself to be in the same class as the American, the Western, intellectual atheists for certain reasons. A lot of what they say is true, but a lot of it is false, demonstrably false, very false actually, and comical. But I give them credit for being sober minded and taking a skeptical, rational approach to the existence. But since we were fooled so deeply, I feel sorry for them too, because like they really like my boy Amenda. Um, it's just a generational thing because he believes in Darwinian evolution and the globe, of course, and the Big Bang, all false. Those have been debunked. Dinosaurs have been debunked. Linear evolution, a couple 100,000 years of human evolution, maybe a million. I think that's been debunked. When we go to flat Earth, we're going back to a more, you could say, cyclical cosmology. Whereas, I mean, to the point where humans actually, there's some teachings that say that this has always been this existence. They say that it's beginningless. They speculate because they will say, well, because nothing can come from nothing, basically. So they're saying this something cannot come from nothing, therefore it always has been. Um, and that's when you get into the what's called materialism. And actually, there's an ancient history to materialism. It's not just the Western concept of materialism that we know. I know it's related, it's correlated, and the mentality, the scientific mentality, which it is real and serious, and it's actually the foundation of what Buddha established as the system of logic that he adhered to, or Gautama, the philosopher, not Buddha, actually, because Buddha never lived. Just like Christ never lived, Buddha never lived. They say Buddha was never born, Buddha never died, because that's Gautama, the philosopher who sought the Buddha mind, or he attained Buddha mind. But there's no such thing as a person. Buddha's not a person. So, but the foundation of his doctrine was founded on the teachings of some of the people before him. He had a meditative teacher, Gautama Shakyamuni, but he also inherited certain not metaphysics. Actually, it's a cosmology, and I guess you can call it materialism. It was a system of logic of basically how creation formed. Um, the materialist, so-called, understand that basically things are created from the inside out, not the outside in. Um, the mass religious people and even the people in the middle, they seem to think that things are created from the outside in. Like when you get into even with flat Earth, they think that God is really literally above the dome or whatever, and above the waters. um, is it possible? Okay, it's possibly possible. But if God is above the waters, he's a finite being. Um, and he was, if he's finite and definable, he's created. If it's created, then what created God? And if it's self-created, then creation itself could be just as self-created, if you want to look at it like that. So, like I said, materialists and naturalists, we say, well, we use that type of logic to look at the world skeptically, rationally, and not through the lenses of culture, religion, and even this, like I said, this New Age culture, etc. It's still a religion. Like with New Age and the universe, the galaxy was the creator, or maybe they didn't espouse the Big Bang so much, but people would look at pictures of a galaxy like it was divine, the celestial nebula. Look at the divine stars and people would get into that, and that was a religion. That was idol worship, worshiping galaxies. This is a human tendency. So for the most part, because when you get into these type of topics, people become delusional because again we're like I said, I mean basically we're animals with a spark. But once that spark is is suppressed, we're nothing but animals basically. Um, So when these teachings, when deeper teachings come to the planet, it's only the few minds who try to take a more scientific look at concepts, but most of the people are gonna take the cartoon form, the comic book form, the idol worship form, the mythology form, the storybook form, the superimposition of some type of magic, you know, scenario on top of this nature, this disgusting, nature. They try to superimpose it, make it all deep and more. Sure, it's mystical. Sure, it's mysterious, but it still is what it is. It's not like I said, it's not like storks dropping babies, of course, and things like that. Nature never lies. So it's to say that creation, to say that it's self-created, which the materialists would they agree with, but they would never say created, even though it is created. They would never call it a creation. I would, like I said, I would say it's self-created. It's a self-creation because things come from the inside out. So these materialists, this history of materialism was suppressed, of course, always is. Why? Because the religionists have something to gain. Because first of all, the mass of people will never get into the system of logic because it's not a religion. It's a system of thought, analyzing, and self intuition, etc. It's not just blind adherence to a simple concept. Trying to appeal to the common man, who's basically just waiting for the NFL season to start. So they're not gonna be into this stuff, this approach to creation anyway. You know, like I said, we're just but we're some glorified animals down here. So when these type of systems come, they always get suppressed because, well, it's better that I give people the comic book form because they love it. Like we love movies and video games and all kinds of entertainment because they love it. This is what they eat up, and then they start taking it literally and they start fighting over it. But they never really got the scientific, rational, masculine intellect version of it. So this materialism is very it's sobering, and they even say it's one of the ways you can experience liberation in this life, because the original meaning of liberation was a way to live a life without being dependent on everybody. What they're saying is that because the the main mechanism down here is vampirism, and everybody's using each other for from the starting with even a friend, uh you know like everybody's vampiric. So the whole goal of that lifestyle, liberation from this bondage to this lifestyle, is what they're talking about. So they say that this type of insight can help you uh gain liberation. So um it's deep how they correlate that, and some of the stuff may already sound like things that we already know. Um, Even though we had this fake universe paradigm, we do agree in the existence of a certain thing called an atom. And I know with flat Earth, there's even some speculation as to if atoms are even real. Did they make up atoms like they made up the globe? And I don't believe so. Nevertheless, we can still know for certain that things are created from the inside out, just like the womb, the egg, seed turned into a flower, inside out, and not the outside in. It's not you know, there's no like flower god is above the flower with a wand and poof, the flower comes into being. That's how people think. No, it's self-created from the seed up. You know that, but then when it comes to creation, people get delusion. So this is what this goes into. So this school of thought, so-called materialism, and like I said, this is not necessarily old or new. It's timeless. I guess in the minority of thinkers who would be considered contemplatives, this perspective. Um, but its emergence, so-called in recorded history, which actually was sort of expunged, came in the school of Naya, and this is considered to be an ancient Hindu school of, like I said, materialism. So, which is expunged, as I said, because the religious, the priests and the temples, they always attack these people because, like again, like I said, you can't get a herd of followers with a school of thought. It becomes a minority thing when you start getting into a school of thought such as this. So that's not going to benefit them. So they suppress these guys and say, no, 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 it's all about Brahma. Worship Brahma. Say Brahma's name. Come to our temple. You know what I'm saying? Because it's man, you got to remember that men are selfish. This is just straight up a scientific. And they use the word rational too. I'm not a hyper rationalist. I do understand the concept of metaphysics. And like I said, emptiness is form, and emptiness. But you got to still be you want to get some clarity on creation beyond just God, you know. So for people who give a damn. So this is the philosophy of Naya, of which Gautama is said to be the author. It's a system of logic. So remember, now a lot of people who get into Buddhism, they never even heard of this. Um, Very few people have heard of this. But this is the I can say you say metaphysics and cosmology. This is the perspective on creation that Buddhism and Gautama's system of thought is founded on. So I would urge people to get into this first before you get into the hyper religious dogmatic side. Then you'll be more sober in your approach to it, and you'll kind of see through it. Like I said, instead of looking at such as gods and everything, these are archetypes. A lot of these are energetic archetypes. They're not literal. So, of course, the common mind is going to take them literal. Now, they're vehicles for a message, but if people start taking them literally, you get what you have now. People who don't really get it. So, we're just passing down confusion. So, when these guys come along with this logic, it always gets brushed under the table because, under the rug, because again, it's not mass appealing. It's kind of self liberating. So these guys, you just say, well, this is, they would get all, full of themselves and go make a speech, they exhorted people to cast off all their shackles, which had bound them from ages, and march shoulder to shoulder towards freedom, because they considered this insight to be liberating in of itself. And I think a lot of it has to do with they're saying with culture, and their religion is a extension of culture. So yeah, liberate from that because it's a bunch of bull. Culture is some BS for those look for the truth. Even from the Gnostic perspective, culture is evil because it's a blinder to the true condition and the true nature of this existence. Like one of the philosophers said, I think it was Zap. He said it was a immortality project. I don't know if it was Zap. Somebody said that, but culture is like an immortality project to distract us from the fact that we're all just dying as individuals. Like there's no such thing as humanity or the world or the future. Those are non-sentient, non-feeling concepts. But no, what's real, if you want to say it, is the people, individual lives, who consist of nothing but birth and death. So culture distracts you from that. When people talk about the world's getting better, we're gonna find out. Don't worry, you pessimistic guys. We're getting there. It's like no, you, and you're nowhere. But so that's a delusion of humanity. Once you get past that, you can get into you know, I guess you can get into this the type of stuff I talk about. So, which I know is sort of uncomforting, but damn that, because I just can't stand to hear a lot of bullshit, man. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm about. So like I said, everybody who's coming off the new age stuff and doesn't like to hear certain things certain ways, then press stop, basically. So this is the system of logic, Naya, and also Vaisheshika. Not sure how to pronounce it. It's a Sanskrit term. So this logic is the path of deliverance for the soul, not near means to deliverance, but in itself actual deliverance, and thus a certain way to bliss. And he does use the word soul. So, like I said, these are materialists, but not materialist in the sense of what we know, what we think as materialism. These Western materialism based off the fake cosmology of the universe. So he does use the word soul, and I know probably another video I probably said something about soul or critique the concept of soul. What does it really mean? In its highest sense, soul is not an individual concept. It's deeper than that. When they say soul, it's you could look at it as the substratum of force that connects us all, or energy, or like they say, the one has lost itself in the many. So they want they consider it as this one because people say the universe is experiencing itself. That's what this is, and in a sense, it's right, but it's not. It's not a penetrating perspective on it. Like, okay, so what? Right? So then why do these guys talk about deliverance if this is the purpose of this is for experience and all this crap that people say about lessons and all this? So why do they talk about deliverance as in reversing this shit? Basically, deliverance is reversal. So on the individual level, they mean this individual life can find its way to bliss through this type of logic and understanding. And that correlation will have to be sort of intuitive because you'll say, well, what does that have to do with finding bliss? So logic, to wit, leads to true knowledge, the knowledge of the essence of things. And in this precisely consists the emancipation of the soul. And that's what they were saying about this freedom. Because once you understand this from the inside out, that's why I say if you go take this angle first before you go into all the dogma, you'll have a more balanced approach to it. I would say a more realistic approach to it. And like I said, I don't believe in the soul as individual concept, but continuing with this document, the further development of Naya is affected in the philosophy of Vaisheshika, of which Kananda is reputed the founder. This system may be said to be a philosophy of nature, as it deals chiefly with the corporeal world. So these guys were focused on this world first. Um, I know what we do, or a lot of people do. We try to jump straight to the world's an illusion. So fuck it, it's an illusion. Like, and I like to say, yeah, okay, it's not an illusion like a video game. It's an illusion because it's never in one. It doesn't stay still. Like the river, it's never the same. You never step into the same river. It's like sand. It's always in flux. Like I said, you go from a baby to a child to a teenager, young adult, senior citizen. Uh, then I can't see you anymore. So, were you ever really a you? That's what makes it illusory. I would say that's a more realistic way to look at that illusion concept than to say, it's just fake. you know, you can say that, but when those bills hit your ass, you ain't saying that shit. So, you know, come on, you gotta be more honest to your mind when you say that the world's an illusion stuff. So that's why this system may be or is a philosophy of nature. It deals with this world, because these guys are like, well, the only way we can communicate knowledge and everything is through these senses, primarily, as far as communicating knowledge. Anything else can't be vouched for, as far as you know, teaching it to people. It has to be something that I can verify. In a lot of my older videos, I talk about a practice. I talk about the practice that these guys do, which is you can verify that. You can practice that, verify it, and I'll say, okay, well, this is real. But a lot of stuff that people talk about is just delusion. So they're saying, hold up, let's just get a clear understanding of this first, you know, before we say it's an illusion, or if we just say, oh, Jesus the Lord made it, So let's be more scientific first. So Vaisheshika advocates the atomic theory. Mm, all bodies, according to the disciples of this philosophy, are formed from homogeneous, minute, indivisible atoms. And at that time, they would say, well, this was a theory, because they didn't know atoms existed. You could debate that if they really knew, or if they were guessing, because this also popped up in Greece, with who was it, Plato, I believe. With he was an atomist too. He understood this. Like I said, all we're saying is things that are created from the inside out, not from the outside in. So, in dividing bodies, we must ultimately reach parts that are no longer divisible. Otherwise, corporeal substances would contain parts infinite in number, and everything in nature would thus be infinite, and the least equal to the greatest. So yeah, everything has to be. They're saying there has to be an ultimate minute point, because if it kept going, then everything would be equal. And that was the weird, trippy shit about the fake universe thing, was everything was equal. There was no small or big. We would go from the atom to the solar system to the galaxy to the supercluster, and everything was always relative, and it was kind of trippy. like it was small, everything was small, everything was big. It's weird. So yeah, they're saying there must be you know, something you can deduce, reduce down, and they would say, well, that's the atom. Otherwise, everything in nature would be infinite and least equal to the greatest. So the combinations of atoms form bodies. The first combinations of atoms is the simplest. So that's the first combination of two atoms is the simplest. The bipartite elements thus formed combine in threes, the tripartite elements thus arising in fours, and so on in every increasing number. Only those elements can unite to form a perceptible substance between which there is mutual adaptability. The smallest perceptible magnitude is that of the sunbeam. Um, so this is where they say the sun. This is where we get into the sun and how critical his role is in forming this world, this plane, because you can imagine the sun circling over the face of the earth and the grass and everything growing. And like I said, you could look at this process as beginningless, as a lot of these guys do, or if you want to look at it linearly, just to get a grasp on it, just imagine the sun circling around and grass and everything starting to grow, trees and plants. But that's a linear approach because it's kind of like the Darwinian evolution thing. There's one of these Vedic sages now. His name is Prabhu. I forgot to pronounce his name. I think he's still alive too. Eric Dubay showed him in this video on the Vedic cosmology. Um, he was one of the only guys. He was going after the globe liars and the Darwinian evolutionists, how they think everything is linear, and he was saying how no, actually, it's always been coexisting. So the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the human kingdom, they've always been coexisting. There was no linear evolution one into the other. So that's the radical difference. I know so some of this atomic stuff, like, oh, we already know about atoms, man. Come on, he said nothing new. But just the context of what they're saying is interesting. So the smallest perceptible magnitude is that of a sunbeam. So the mode of a sunbeam, this is a combination of the second order and consists accordingly of 6 atoms. The size of the ultimate atom is therefore 1/6 that of the mode of the sunbeam. So the sun having again a lot to do with this creation, jump starting this creation at a very minute level. So the combination of atoms to form perceptible bodies is governed according to Vaisheshika by a fixed law. The chance combinations of the Greek atomistic doctrines are therefore excluded. And there's the key. This is the big difference. Because there can be materialists, like I said, and they're not stupid people. But I believe what their fallacy is this chance combination crap. They have a chip on their shoulder. Like they can't admit that atoms could know what they're doing, or they could have some type of rationale or intent. Let's put it like that. They can have an intent um, to what's going on. It's not chance combinations. These Darwinian evolutionists keep saying that it's a chance combination. Humans formed, it was a chance. It just happened to turn into a human. It could have turned into we could have had one arm. We just happen to have two equal arms, two legs, but it could have been. It's some of the stuff is like, come on, it's absurd. Do you really think? You know what I'm saying? Again, that's like throwing chalk. They say throwing chalk at a chalkboard, and the words God appearing on the chalkboard, and then somebody saying that was random chance combination. So, like they said, the chance combinations of the Greek atomistic doctrines are excluded. Vaisheshika also assumes the existence of a higher force which controls the combination of the atoms. So that's where you get into a sort of a metaphysic, and they will call that sort of a principle that determines the atom's behavior, or that the atoms are interpreting a certain principle for their intent. Um, so you don't have to say that's a mind. We can just say it's a mind if we know the difference between human mind and ultimate mind. Um, that's like the higher force that controls the combination of atoms. I'm sure a lot of New Age people can vibe with that. So it will not admit the possibility of spontaneous combinations among them. The action of God must intervene to determine them to union. So they use the word God in this document. And again, the in this context, they don't mean God as a finite being. Again, they mean as in principle. There must be some principle that is guiding the behavior of atoms or intrinsic to atoms. So, like they'll say mentality, materiality, because some of the guys would say, well, there's nothing outside the atom. The atom itself can think. So, again, so matter can think is the point here. That's the only thing the Western materialists will never say. They think that's stupid. But of course, we think that's stupid to say it's a chance combination. Like they're scared to admit something. Um, Matter can think. So Vaisheshika furthermore undertakes an explanation of man's nature. There is a soul in man distinct from the body. So here's when they get into metaphysics and they talk about there's a soul in man distinct from the body. Now they don't literally mean inside of your body you have a soul. They're saying man has a nature, and like I said, that's that spark within consciousness, and they're just calling that soul. You can look at that as a core of consciousness. But again, you don't want to take this stuff literally. Um, for he possesses attributes different from the attributes of other things, to wit, intelligence, desire, aversion, will, pleasure, and pain. In the body, on the other hand, are located action and the effort after that which gives pleasure, the organs of sense, and the feelings of sensuous pleasure and pain. Intermediary between soul and body is anhakara, self consciousness, which, although united to each individual soul, is yet wholly distinct from it. So, yeah, that's deep. This an intermediary, this self consciousness, which really is a function of the meat brain and the gut brain too. We have neurons in the gut. This self consciousness is intermediary between that soul concept and the body. So when he says, although united to each individual, is yet wholly distinct from it. And again, I would say, like he says, united to each individual soul, yet wholly distinct from it. When these guys say soul, I'll go into another part, but it's different from what you're thinking. Because some of these guys say, well, if there is a soul, it arises with the body, not before the body. So it's something that's a metaphysical counterpart to the physical self body. Um, and but then they say that then there's self consciousness, which is really like saying with the like I said, the brain, the hypothalamus. But they're saying there's something distinct from it. This is where they get into their system of what you want to call it, spirituality, religion, but really it's based on a philosophy. Um, when they start talking about liberation in this life. So, but everything which in this life is united to the soul is an evil for the soul, and that's where they see. That's where it gets Gnostic again. They're saying um, this original pure consciousness. We're gonna try to translate this soul concept is to be concomitant with a body. They say this is evil. This is this is where they get Gnostic. Because that Gnostic thought is not just Gnosticism. It's all in the. If you really look and probe this, even the Eastern things, you'll find the same mentality on the world. Maya is not praised. They always talk about relieving yourself from Maya, and I know I talked about suicide in the last video. But the thing about suicide is most people are not gonna kill themselves. That's a very we're not wired to do that. That you have to overcome a lot of boundaries to do that. Even though we know we're gonna die, it's like we hold that shit off. I always had a problem too. Now I'm starting to agree that I think it's wiser to. I truly do. And the Stoics say this. A lot of groups say this. I know it sounds crazy to people. It sounds radical because you're not raised like this. But it's wiser to go out on your own accord if you're a man of knowledge. But the thing is, it's still hard. I mean, it's just as hard as it is to die any fucking way, right? It's hard. You have to be driven to the edge to do that. You have to just see, not just see no hope, but it's like you got to overcome a lot of biological blockages to that. The whole point of all this, and I'll get into it, is this design, this body is no, don't leave pain, body, stay, because there's even the Buddhist narratives. They talk about some of the guys they attained a certain level and they say, "All right, I'm out. Fuck this. I'm done with the world." Because that's what Buddhism is about. It's a world-denying system of thought. So they don't. People who condone the world shy away from the concept of suicide. But once you understand the world and like they're saying, this shit is an evil. You can give. They give two fucks. Like they say, the wise does it care to live or not. People try to make a big deal out of it because they go, oh no, stay, oh no. Like, first of all, nobody want to stay. See, that same mentality is what keep dragging people down here. Because you just want to see people here to die any fucking way. It's ignorance. Stay here for us. Like, motherfucker. And you keep dragging people down here with that stupid attitude. But like they said, this is an evil. So why do you guys keep perpetuating evil? But let me continue with this. Everything in this life united to the soul. Like I said, I can translate that into pure consciousness is an evil for the soul. So the body is evil, the senses are evil, the objects of sense, the elements, consciousness of the external world, consciousness of self, action, pleasure, and pain. So damn, everything is evil. And this is where I go into I like what I like to call I got this. I read this term on the Gnostic website. They said satanic atoms, and I got. I was like, okay, yeah. So we talk about demiurge, and Buddha would call it Mara. It's those atoms. You know what I'm saying? It's not a red man in the sky. It's not a monster above the firmament or swimming in the waters around the firmament or whatever or underground. Well, hell, I mean, there may be some because I heard at the center. There's some tales about the center of the earth. How Flatwater talked about it. How if you keep going, then it turns to an oasis. At first, it's icy, and then you keep going, it turns into like an oasis. And then there was a book called The King of the World, where this guy, I think his name was Rene Guanin or something like that, and he talked about how the king of the world is actually the devil. But he was making a point to say that's who lives at the center of the earth, the devil. But again, that's still a little literalist, a little externalist. They're saying, look, because like I say, why you worry about the devil or God? Like they say, look, the body itself is evil. Because I had a conversation with somebody, and these Christians talk about meditation's gonna invite demons. And hold up, motherfucker, that you don't understand. These guys saying the body is evil. So they're meditating to tame this body, this evil body. What are you talking about? They don't get it. So Christians, of course, don't get it. So why worry about the devil when the body is evil and the senses? Like I said, there's a story in the Taoist tradition where they say there was this immortal divine being until one day a beast came along or a monster came along and drilled holes into it for senses, and that being became immortal, and that was the evil fall. So that's a narrative, another narrative that people are gonna take literally, but that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, the senses and everything. So that's a clear concept. That's the Gnostic. Even in this philosophy, you'll still find it. So it's not some fringe crazy. So are you sick in the head, man? What's wrong with you? Yeah, right. We can look at this world and see what this shit is about. You know. So yeah, I would say I don't wouldn't even use the word satanic, but whatever. Like satanic atoms. The atoms are not necessarily divine. They're not divine atoms. It's Mara. It's demiurge energy. So, and thus we are again conducted to the term in which all Hindu systems eventually end. The deliverance of the soul, regaining pure consciousness. And they would talk about living this lifestyle, these practices, like the monk lifestyle, the ascetic lifestyle. It has implications, and a lot of it has to do with procreation, not procreating, not living the family life because you don't want to perpetuate this world, because like go back because they look at this world as evil, and everything in this world is an evil. So it is the task of the soul to free itself from the evils of the body by means of that sacred knowledge in which it contemplates itself as a thing distinct from the body and independent of it. Through this realization of its own essence, the soul rises above the sphere of action, above merit and responsibility, and attains to perfect quietude and bliss. So that's the lifestyle of an ascetic. They can cultivate lots of bliss. So they don't need, because that's what people need. Oh, I'm having a birthday party. You coming? You coming? Oh, I'm having a, you want everybody to come meet up with you and be with you, love you. You want your child to love you, love me, your lover to love you. It's vampirism. See, so the lifestyle that they're living is a reversal of society. It's a reversal of the bonds, which is really bondage. It starts with the family. Family is bondage. The world is bondage. Like as the children come into this world under the paradigm of bondage because it's a non-consensual act. So they're reversing that whole mentality and saying, I'd rather see this world vacated. Maya, rather see her ceased. So we can deliverance with this knowledge, understanding that things are created from the inside out. When they go into atom mystic theory, is it does something to your subconscious, but it's not just an intellectual task. They apply these understandings in their meditations and cultivations in order to have that sense of they're purifying these energy channels and experiencing bliss. So their whole lifestyle is not a you'll never see these guys. But like I said, it's about the implications of that lifestyle, not so much. They're not escaping reincarnation, because reincarnation was actually not original to even Buddhism. So that's a modern day fabrications too. And this one of my man's on my channel, on one of the videos he posted explanation about that too, about reincarnation, how it's a fabrication. So people love it. It's poetic, it's egoic because you okay. So where am I gonna do next? Like no, no. So by means of that sacred knowledge in which it contemplates itself as a thing distinct from the body and independent of it. Through this realization of its own essence, the soul rises above the sphere of action, above merit and responsibility, and attains to perfect quietude and bliss. So that's what it is. And you leave no trace on this world. That's because, again, this is world denying school of thought. So, to the systems hitherto set forth, we must add three others, with the details of which, however, we are but imperfectly acquainted. So he's going to go into some other systems of philosophy, and materialism. They have this in common, that they are materialistic in character and therefore are at variance with the religious doctrines of the Hindus. So this again, what I'm saying, the religious Hindus, there's always been this battle between these guys, between the guys that say, well, let's use intelligence, intellect, and our rationale to analyze and interpret creation instead of just jump into the God thing. Now, of course, but you got to jump to the God thing because the masses are not going to want to do that, analyzing with the intellect and all that, because they don't even like math. So it's not going to work. So it is what it is with people. But the religious people go even further to try to shut these guys down, which is some bullshit. Because they're scared. They don't want this. They don't want their gods and everything of worship to be debunked because you got all these people in the temples praising statues, and they're supporting their lifestyle. The people in the temple, they're getting supported by the ignorance people. So it was at variance with the religious doctrine. The first system is that of the Shinas. The Shinas. In this system, a distinction is allowed between the animate and the inanimate, but both, it is contended, are constituted by atoms only. So they say, damn, well, even the inanimate, of course, I think they're talking about like rocks and things like that, I believe. But of course, they're saying, well, that's made out of atoms too. They're like, no, it's not made by an external finite anthropomorphic God. The atoms themselves are self-created in this creation. It's constituted by atoms only. It admits no supramundane existence and will not acknowledge a providence. So that's where they get radical. Like they're like, well, especially for like me, you ain't going no damn where. And that's what people hate to hear. I know people hate to hear that. So that's why I said I shattered delusions here. No, I don't. You're not going anywhere. See, that's escapism. Just accept this world. And like, why? Why should we do that? Well, because the whole point is to say we don't agree with this perpetuation. That's why you need to accept the truth of it, because you can make a sound decision whether you should perpetuate this suffering down here and this death down here instead of running to some, no, God made it, doesn't matter, let's keep it up. Blind ignorance. So there is value in knowing this, because it is a sort of, that's compassionate enough, right? A lot of people get offended by it because they get uncomfortable with it, but they don't, because they're being selfish. Like, why do you care? It doesn't matter. We're all gonna die anyway. People are selfish as hell. But no, it does matter that you understand this, and that's why they go this far. Because if you be truthful about it, stop trying to. Oh, when you die, it's good. That's why we brought you here. Lessons, and then you go to heaven. All the foolish, like the common people, they foolish any damn way. They're called automatons. Like I said, we're animals down here. We all have an animal self. We all have an automaton animal self that goes along blindly with the world. Just doesn't even remember its birth. So it's foolish. You're ignorant. You're deluded, and you're headed towards the grave. But no. It looks like you're headed towards the grave. Really, you're gonna rise and go to heaven all your life, and there's a special force that's gonna shower you with all this bullshit. Like, no, or my ass is fucking dead and you brought me here to die. Yeah, this is suffering. So that's why they said all these priests telling everybody, look, look above. We know your life ain't shit, but look. Oh, God is will shower you above. Trust me. You have to believe. And people are like, oh yes, we are relieved of all our toils and struggle, all this pushing donkeys every day. I'm tired of this shit. So then they find it, tired of being in the drudgery. What is it? Oh, Google, gonna come save you. Ask him for blessing. He will bless your life. Goo. You're right. It's like, I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't play the Delusion game, so fail. So closely connected with the system is that of the Shirwakas, which maintains that the corporeal alone is real, that spirit is merely an empty word. So these guys are like, even the word spirit, you got to be careful. And I agree with them because we do say it was spiritual. Spiritual. I'm so, like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Spiritual. You want to live a spiritual life? How the fuck you? That's a material life. Well, the spiritual is the material. Like what? So it's just the material then. So they like the corporeal alone is real. And that's radical to people who run around saying the world's an illusion all damn day, but till you stub your toe. Yeah, that shit ain't a fucking illusion. It's shit. Or until even like I don't want to be an asshole, but let's say anything. I mean, somebody slap you, you're not gonna stand it. So that was an illusory. Nothing touched me, for I am mind, and there is no self. This is all illusory. Get the fuck out of here. You're gonna be pissed off, and you're gonna fire back with animal behavior, because for all you know, the world is real. So while we are here, this is reality. Why? And it sucks. The suffering is some bullshit. So that's another thing. People like that lose your shit too, so they can say, "Well, it's fake anyway." It's fake anyway. Well, no, assholes. Like I said, I've seen in the past 2 years, I've seen people go close to me, and fuck that. All right, fake or real, asshole. It's not fucking. It's suffering. So fuck off with the dumb shit. Talk about a fucking illusion. There's another way for you to keep this shit going. You lie like that. So they like, nah, this shit is real. Try to act, it's real enough. You know what I'm saying? Like the suffering is real enough. So last in order comes the system of the Lokayatikas, an offshoot of the previous school. Here too, the body is the only reality. Spirit is mere nothing. So these Lokayatikas are considered the nihilist, or the quasi-nihilist. They're not like these Western nihilists. Trust me. There's a difference, man. These guys are deeper than those guys. Trust me. They're not just shallow intellectuals. So, but they're saying the body is the only reality in the sense that the body is the soul. So people think, like I said, there's no souls coming into the body. The body is the self, so that's what it is if you want to put it like that. But they're like, spirit is a mere nothing. Why are you even saying spirit? So I talked about cultivating spirit, and so like, how do you justify that? Well, when you're cultivating breath, you could call that spirit. That you can call the breath the breath slash spirit, but they're saying that's still a part of the world in a sense, and they're right. So they would say even the breath is made out of atoms. Um, so so again, the Lokayatikas say the body is the only reality, spirit is mere nothing. So that's kind of radical too. Again, just I like get into this perspective because you see things from the inside out, not the outside in. It takes a more sober approach because everybody just loves to jump into the comic book interpretations. So sensation, consciousness, intelligence, though they do not formally exist in the several elements, exist potentially in them, subject to the condition that these elements combine to form organic bodies. Um, So they're saying this what we know as being self-conscious. Um, Atoms, the elements are not in that sense self-conscious. Like I said, they have a rationale, a sort of intent in quotes, but they're not conscious. Like they're not gonna talk to you, or they don't think like, what am I gonna do today? Maybe I'll go combine with this atom. Not even like that. It's just an auto intentional process. So, but they're saying this is like a recipe. Like you don't have cake until you combine the eggs, the sugar, the flour, the milk, the But separately, the eggs, the sugar, and the flour are not cake. But until you combine them, you get cake. This cake of self consciousness, and they exist. So it is just potentially the cake exists potentially in the milk, but subject to the condition that these recipes or these ingredients combine to form cake or to form organic bodies. To that extent, then this subconscious intelligence arises. So thought has therefore no other cause than a certain definite combination of elements. So the way we think and everything, and that's what I was saying about. See, there's in Huyin Buddhism they say there's two false views: taking the body as a self and taking something within the body as a self. And the thing here is everybody feels like they're inside a body, but that's an illusion. That's why a lot of the Buddhists they contemplate the internals of the body like every day. They contemplate the organs, the brain. They could say, feel my brain, feel my the hair, feel my liver, feel my stomach, intestines. Why are they doing this? Because you don't contemplate that enough. You think you're like a ghost inside a body. That's false doctrine. They don't subscribe to that. The body is the body. The feeling of being inside the body, that's your hypothalamus. Being inside the head, that's your hypothalamus. Once that shit goes, you don't feel like you're inside the body. I mean, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the thalamus, and the pineal gland. But yeah. Um, thought has therefore no other cause than a certain definite combination of elements. It is merely a mode of their coexistence. In the same way as the fermenting together of several substances produces an exciting beverage, which cannot be procured from each substance taken separately, nor from all taken together, unless when mixed in the required manner. And so this is where the of course the Western atheist materialists would cheer on like exactly. And this is what their whole motto is. What we know as subconscious doesn't emerge outside the body. That's what we're saying. That's what these guys and the ancients are saying too. These ancient rationalists, materialists, so-called naturalists. And again, like I said, a lot of this school of thought relates to Gautama. That's why Buddha came out, or Gautama said there is no self. That's what he was saying. There's no permanent spirit inside the body that's gonna leave and go somewhere else. So, that's egoic thinking. That's his main doctrine. No, there is no self, because a lot of the Hindu preachers started teaching that. You have a self. Oh, don't you want to reincarnate? Good. Oh, well, do this. Do this for me. Don't do that. It's control. It's manipulation. It's mind control. So they're saying once these ingredients disperse or break up at death, then there is no more self. Face it. So it is merely a mode of their coexistence in the same way as fermenting together of several substances produces an exciting beverage which could not be procured from each substance taken separately, nor from all taken together unless when mixed in their required manner. So it's up. The cake is not cake until you mix the egg, the sugar, the flour, etc. So as long, therefore, as the body exists, a fully constituted organism, so long will thought and feeling, joy and suffering endure. But these cease to exist when the body ceases to be. And that's the key. Of course, people are going to say, no, no. Because, see, that's the fear of death. That it's a paradox. The fear of death is what's making people cling to reincarnation. You don't want to actually die, so you want to be a self. Past that, and then it turns on your own self, because then you get scared, thinking, "Oh, what am I going to do after though? I might go to hell. I might go to heaven. Oh, I need to go to heaven. What I got to do to go to heaven? Oh, it's and this what these guys coming. This why this shit gets suppressed, because they're breaking that shit down. Like, nah, you motherfuckers. And they talk stuff about those priests teaching that. They tell them that those guys, they're like, well, those some suckers. They lost their manliness and intellect, and now they just want to sit around and kiss Brahma's ass all day, because they don't want to think for themselves, and then it's some pussies, and that's what they're saying. They don't want to face the truth, talking all this bullshit. As long, therefore, as the body exists, a fully constituted organism, so long will thought and feeling, joy and suffering endure, but these cease to exist when the body ceases to be. So that's it. Trust me, these are one-offs, just as it looks. There's something more pernicious going on down here than soul lessons. or spirit lessons. So and he concludes this excerpt. I'll post a link to it. We may notice that Hindu philosophy has covered a tolerable wide field during its development. From the loftiest idealism, it descends by many stages to materialism. So he uses the word descends to materialism. If we take the Buddhist doctrines into our reckoning, even to nihilism, because even I know nihilism gets criticism too, but if you read that stuff, it is nihilistic too, um, because they're looking at this world for what it is. Shit. Many of the notions which we have met with here will confront us again in various guises during the further course of the history of philosophy. So this is his philosophy course. This is from Notre Dame professor. So yeah, that's his summary of the Naya and Vaisheshika. It's ancient Indian materialism, and I'll do some more parts on this. Peace.